The season continues. Are we on the road to Fernando? Are we on the road to getting a win? I don't even know what road we are on. I need to plug in the GPS. But what I do know is that this weekend we have a game against the Atlanta Falcons. So we got to talk Falcons with somebody from the enemy camp. We got to get the little do's and don'ts, get their little insights, get everything going on. We got to share our little insights and have a grand old time like we always do. It's not Third Party Thursday. It's something Tuesday. All right, we got it going on. We are live. Boy Green meets Wudi.
Can you guys help us get a jet chant here? Yeah, going.
Oh.
Okay, right, yeah. Come on in.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go!
J-E-T-S, Jet, let's go! J-E-T-S, Jet, let's go! There you go, Wudi!
Third Party Thursday.
Chris joining us here on the program with a capital P here on the program.
Jake Asman, come on down. How you doing, good sir?
Wow, what an intro. I mean, Boy Green is known for having the intro, but Wudi, that was unreal, man. Thanks for the kind words, son.
We are men of many names.
My favorite Austrian Jets fan right there, baby.
Boy Green
Meets Wudi. Welcome to another episode of Boy Green Meets Wudi. It is your boy Wudi, and you already know we are Wudi, rocking everywhere. We appreciate you guys locking in with us. I see you guys in the comments already going off. All right, we got right here at the home. The home is where the heart is. We talking about the boy who became king up in the isosceles triangle. We got none other than Mr. Paul Esden Jr. And like we said during the cold open, it's holiday week. All right, we got different things going on. So Third Party Thursday, we already know that's Thanksgiving. All right, so when we prepare for this week's game against the Atlanta Falcons, we still need to bring in somebody, and we got somebody special. We talking about an actual sports reporter, news anchor from Fox 5 Atlanta. Okay, I'm gonna tell you his name. His name is Myles Garrett, and on his Twitter page, he said, probably not the Myles Garrett you looking for. What's that? Because today, this is the exact Myles Garrett that we looking for. Come on now. Let's talk some Falcons. Let's talk some Jets. Myles Garrett, how you doing?
Doing good, fellas. Appreciate the introduction. How y'all doing?
Doing great.
Excellent. I don't know if you've seen the commercial, Mouse. I can't even remember who the sponsor or what it's for, but there's the commercial for Michael Jordan and the guy that just is like, they're doing the Grubhub order. Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan. No. So do you get any of that going on, Myles Garrett?
Oh, yeah. No, I tweeted it out a couple days ago, seeing how Myles Garrett is very close to breaking the single season sack record, that I might have to change my name to Myles B. Jordan or B. Garrett, to stop the confusion here. But no, it's always very spotty here and there. I think it's going to continue to the day I die, to be honest with you. So I'm just ready for it now.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Well, there's a lot to get into here on the Dirty Birds, Miles. And really, the Falcons, I don't know if this has always been the case, but they've been one of the more interesting conversations around the draft the last couple of years, the Michael Penix pick. And then last year, trading a future first to get back into the first round to get a defensive player in James Pierce Jr. drew a lot of criticism, and it was a whoa move to do something like that. And I'm curious, how has that worked out? Because the Falcons have been looking for defense for a while, and pass rushers especially, with the combination of things that have been going on over the last bunch of years. What did you make of them making an aggressive move of that nature? And then how has it worked out so far, 75% halfway through the season?
Sure. Now, of course, there's the dialogue right now, right, of the Falcons not being a very good team, not having the first-round pick, and, of course, that first-round pick going to the team that's the best team, you could argue, right now in the NFL, that being the Los Angeles Rams. All that, I hear, I understand it. A lot of uncertainty with the Falcons as far as a coaching staff is concerned next year. But just looking at the black and white here of what they did, Terry Fontenot, I think, did spectacular in doing a spectacular job rather of doing this move. You know, the Falcons have been horrible at pass rush. You could argue for 2 decades now. It's been a problem. They have never been able to figure it out, basically since, as a guy you guys are well aware of, John Abraham, back when he was in Atlanta. That's really the last time Atlanta had a very good and a very strong pass rush. So they tried to basically kill 2 birds with 1 stone by getting 2 of those guys, you know, getting Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. And so far, I don't think you can argue that it wasn't the right move. I mean, these 2 guys are now leading 1 and 2 in rookie sack categories at the moment. They're coming on strong. Usually it takes rookie pass rushers, you know, maybe a season or 2 really to get going. These 2 guys are really picking up steam the last couple of weeks. And the Falcons right now, number 2 in the NFL, I believe the last time I checked, I might be wrong there, but I know they're at least top 5 in getting to the quarterback right now. I think the last few games, I think 5 games, they've had at least 4 sacks. So it's been a great turnaround. Obviously, another guys you guys know, and Jeff Ulbrich, who's come back to Atlanta and really transformed this defense from what it was under Jimmy Lake. You know, they have been giving up points, but they have been on the field quite a bit. I think that's a big aspect. The Falcons offense has struggled a lot this season. So the defense has been on the field for a long time, but it hasn't just been Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. A lot of these second-year players that General Manager Terry Fontenot drafted are coming on strong. Brandon Dorless, now the inside in the defensive line, I believe he's now officially leading the team in sacks. Zach Harrison was also performing very strong until he was put on injured reserve. Ruka Rororo replacing Grady Jarrett there on the interior line. Xavier Watts. I mean, that was part of the trade too. I think a lot of people forget, you know, trading that pick to Los Angeles, you essentially got the pick that drafted Xavier Watts and James Pierce Jr. So you got 2 starters there. Xavier Watts already been named Defensive Rookie of the Month that first month rather. He was a starter for the Falcons. So yes, you know, I get it. The losing the first round pick hurts, but all things considered, it addressed a need, and that need has been met thoroughly, I think, so far.
I cannot argue with that, actually. I had checked in preparation for our time in terms of sack percentage, and you know there's all these different stats that
Sure. Pressure rates, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, of course. But the sack percentage, you guys were 3rd. I was looking at that, I was like, damn, you know, had to say a quick little Hail Mary for Tyrod this Sunday. But I want to go back to the other trade. So we talked about, you know, last year, or not the trade, but the draft. In drafting Michael Penix, right, not too long after signing Kirk Cousins. You know, I got to see on that Netflix documentary Quarterback, you know, a little bit of the behind the scenes, but I'm sure you know more than what that show provided in that type of dynamic. And like the offense, to your point, has kind of been the area of contention, despite having, you know, Drake London, you know, Bijan. We got some guys over there. So this is a 2-parter. One, do you believe Michael Penix is the future of the Atlanta Falcons? We'll start there. Do you believe Michael Penix is the future?
So it's a loaded question, and there's a lot of ways you can kind of discuss this whole argument. Going back to last season, I think it's important to give sort of context to this. So the Falcons, the original plan, you know, whether it worked or didn't work right now, I think you can argue it hasn't worked thus far as what the original intent was to kind of go through the Green Bay Packers model of having Kirk Cousins be here for 2, maybe even 3 years, have Michael Penix Jr. sit and learn and understand the system and have him take over. Now, again, there's an argument given Michael Penix Jr.'s age, one of the older quarterbacks in the league. He's older than Kyle Pitts at this point. Kyle Pitts has been with the team now for 4 seasons. So, you know, he's had some years under his belt in the collegiate ranks, but that was the original intent. And of course, going back to last season, you know, Kirk Cousins had the team at 6-3. The team was playing very well. What happened was, and at the time, we didn't know, we weren't told, although in hindsight, it was fairly obvious. We knew something was wrong. When they were 6-3, they went to New Orleans, and Kirk Cousins took a hit that ever since that hit, essentially, he wasn't the same quarterback. I think he went through a stretch of, I believe it was 4 games, 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So that's where the season went off the rails. You know, everything, you know, the Falcons were favorites for playoffs at that point. You know, everything was looking good. So there was an argument even at that point that Penix was put in too late, just given the fact of how Kirk was playing. They had that Monday night game against the Raiders. It was the last game he started where Kirk really didn't look good at all. And then Penix came in, and I think those last 3 games showed you a lot of promise. You got to see that long ball strength. That's really was his biggest strength coming out of Washington, was his deep ball accuracy, and sort of the chemistry he was having with Drake London. So going into this season, there was a lot of optimism that he was going to, continue that momentum on. And I said this in a lot of podcasts preseason. You got to let him have his growing pains. This is an extension of a rookie year. You don't want to call it a second year in the system. He started 3 games. So this was essentially an extension of his rookie year. And this season, you sort of saw flashes of it. You had a game here or there where you'd see that potential of what the Falcons saw. Zach Robinson working with, and Raheem Morris working with Matthew Stafford. Saw a lot of comparisons there from a strictly arm strength perspective. That was really his big thing. But there has been a couple of things that have left Falcons fans to be a little worried. I mean, primarily right now, it's the topic at hand, his injury history. And now you have another surgery on a partial ACL tear on his other knee. He's had 2 surgeries on his other knee. So that's obviously a big concern. But another concern really that has kind of flown under the radar a little bit is the footwork. The footwork is, sorry about the phone call here. I'll ignore that. Going back to the footwork aspect, it's been kind of weird because if you watch him drop back, the Falcons have operated more than any other team in the NFL out of the pistol set. It's been a point of contention really because when Zach Robinson came here, the whole thought would be a lot of play action passes, getting Kirk Cousins at that time was still operating off the injury. So you kind of assume that that's why they were going more pistol sets with him too. So all of that combined, it's been really weird to see sort of the lack of footwork that Michael Penix Jr. has had operating out of this pistol set. At some points, the offense has been seen as predictable at times. I think a lot of NFL analysts like Dan Orlovsky, John Gruden, a lot of them have kind of spoken about this prior. But the big thing that when Kirk Cousins came in this past Sunday is they suddenly were operating under center. We haven't seen this all season long, and lo and behold, it was relatively successful. Again, I know the Saints are a horrible team. I get that. I understand that. And the Falcons aren't very good themselves at this point either. And especially with Drake London being out, the wide receiver room is very, very, you can call it hurt or you can call it depth, has not been good this season. You released Ray McLeod a few weeks ago. He was good last season. So outside of that, you have Darnell Mooney, who this year has largely been ineffective. He was one of Kirk Cousins' favorite targets last year, and you saw it again in that game against New Orleans. He had his best output from a receiving yard standpoint, scored his first touchdown of the season. So I don't know if it's maybe a chemistry thing with Kirk. I don't know if maybe it's easier to catch a right-handed ball as opposed to a left-handed ball. I've heard receivers talk about that adjustment. So I don't know what that is. Again, like I said, I know New Orleans is a bad team right now. So it was obviously something the Falcons were able to take advantage of. But all those things combined, it's kind of a long answer here, but Michael Penix Jr., I think is really kind of the big concern. You don't really know what you have at this point because I think the sample size is still a little too small. Excuse me. And, he's going to, I will say this. I think he's going to be the starter next year. I know that there's probably going to be maybe a game or two maybe that he'll miss. I think his rehab will take him right up until August or September. So I'm not expecting the Falcons to just abandon ship this offseason. If anything, I think they'll bring in another quarterback, if not re-sign Kirk Cousins. But all of that considered, it is sort of disheartening to know that you really don't know what you've got with Michael Penix at this point.
Yeah, that's I feel like that's where I'm at, and I'm not sure what you got. And then with Kirk, right, you have the guy who, like you said, if plan A took place, he would have still been on the team. So as a quarterback needy team over here, I'm wondering what is the percentage you feel that Kirk Cousins will be an Atlanta Falcon next year?
That's a really tough question because if you asked me that same question at the end of last year, I would have said Kirk wouldn't have been on the Falcons this year. I would have thought they may have traded him just given what happened and how the fan base was reacting at the time. I just thought that he was going to try to maybe get an opportunity elsewhere. Obviously, the contract is what it is. The Falcons were locked into paying him. But to answer your question, I can't really tell you at this point. I think a lot of it's going to depend on how the rest of the season plays out with Kirk being that guy for the remainder of the year. So if he performs well, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Falcons sort of get him back just because of the familiarity he has with this offense. Of course, that is granted if the coaching staff is retained with Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson. I know there's been some rumors that job security maybe isn't as what they want. Zach Robinson, a lot of rumors that he may go to Oklahoma State to be the head coach. All of this is rumorville, of course, but I imagine that they'll want that familiarity back should Kirk Cousins perform pretty well this final stretch of games.
All right, everybody, make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe. We got 200 people watching here on the program, which we appreciate. We got freaking Myles Garrett here. He's having a hell of a year, baby, a hell of a year. There's no question about it. And Myles, come on, I got to talk about the Promise Prince. You brought him up earlier, Jeff Ulbrich, baby, who, this is not his first stop in the ATL going back there. But Jet fans have some conflicting emotions because when Jeff Ulbrich originally got here as the DC, he struggled and there was rumors that he could be fired, and Robert Saleh stuck by him, and that was the right decision. And Jeff Ulbrich turned this train around, and he tried to figure it out as an interim coach last year, and that didn't work out for a lot of reasons, both he and beyond him. But, man, you look at the raw numbers in Atlanta, and it seems like a lot is going right. Sure, the Falcons' record isn't what I'm sure a lot of Dirty Birds fans out there would prefer, but Jeff Ulbrich, it sounds like he's doing his job here, Myles Garrett.
Yeah, no, he absolutely is. And obviously, again, at one point, I believe the Falcons were ranked number 1 in total defense. I think that has since changed. But, it goes back to an earlier point, what I was saying. Last year, rather, when you had Jimmy Lake, there was a lot of questions about, obviously, the coaching, but really the talent that you had on the roster. At that point, you still had Grady Jarrett, of course, but you traded up in the second round to get a guy like Ruka Rororo. Brandon Dorless was in that draft class as well. We still haven't seen Braylon Trice yet. He was a pretty highly touted pick as far as an edge rusher is concerned, a need that they had last year. But really all those guys defensively, you didn't know what you had there. So with Jeff Ulbrich coming in, like I said, you've seen Dorless go off. You've seen Rook perform really well there. So to me, that points directly to Jeff Ulbrich from a coaching standpoint, that he's putting these guys in position to get after the quarterback. And we saw it in training camp. There was a lot of movement, a lot of different looks that we hadn't seen last year with Jimmy Lake. So I do love what he's been doing from a pass rush standpoint. I do think that their pass defense could be a little bit better from a secondary standpoint. I know that, AJ Terrell is a pretty good cornerback, but outside of him, your number 2, D. Alford, has played a little bit better. But again, from a depth perspective, hasn't been great. Linebacking core, I think, has been the biggest thing for this team, because Divine Diablo, when he is in the game, is arguably the MVP of this unit. He's sort of the quarterback of how this defense operates. He broke his forearm, or fractured his forearm, against the 49ers in that 49ers game, rather, after the Buffalo Bills win. And that's really where the losing streak for this team started. So he got him back against the New Orleans Saints. He was a difference maker there. He's got a big club on his hand now. But he really is sort of the operation that gets this unit going. So having JD Bertrand replace him, I think, was a big step back from a depth perspective. They're still waiting to get Troy Anderson back. I don't know if he's going to play this season. He's sort of been a little bit of a disappointment, as former second-round pick who I believe has only played 8 games, if I'm not mistaken, in his career. So Divine Diablo's presence is huge for this team.
I hear that. Speaking about somebody who was a huge presence, I thought actually it was going to be a huge presence for my fantasy team. And I feel like as soon as I say fantasy team, that automatically brings us to one guy. And I just want to know, you are, there, you got your feet on the ground down there. And obviously, fantasy football and real life football are 2 completely different things. So I just am super curious to know, burning to know, Myles Garrett, to you, who is Kyle Pitts?
It's $1 million question right now. Who is Kyle Pitts? Yeah, it's been really kind of a bummer, honestly, because you look back, I think everyone is looking back at that rookie year that he had with Matt Ryan. And there was a lot of arguments since then of inconsistent quarterback play, because obviously that rookie year, having Matt Ryan, he made the Pro Bowl. His yardage total, I believe he broke Mike Ditka's record at that time for a rookie tight end. But since then, he had a revolving door: Desmond Ridder, Taylor Heineke, Marcus Mariota, Michael Penix Jr., Kirk Cousins. He's had a lot of different quarterbacks there. So, and then he also dealt with a torn ACL too. So he was dealing with a couple different factors there that you thought maybe was impacting his production. Now, this year, again, and also to that point, you see a guy like Brock Bowers last year who performed extremely well at an elite level with inconsistent quarterback play. So that argument is kind of thrown out the door a little bit now, just given the fact of where he was drafted, how high he was, that unicorn moniker that he has, of being that 6'5" guy that can run like a deer and is built like a tight end, that type of thing. But I do think there is two sides to the coin with his production this season. They're looking at a lot of all 22 tape. He has been getting open quite a bit. There's been a few times where Michael Penix Jr. simply hasn't seen him. Same thing with Kirk Cousins. So I don't know if it's a quarterback thing. I don't know if it's a schematics thing, but there is, however, been a disappointment factor in the fact that, he hasn't been able to make some of these contested catches that, you draft a guy like that to make, 6'5". Like I said, I just went over the measurables with you. He's built to make those types of plays, make those types of catches, and he really hasn't done it this year.
So Kyle Pitts is set to be a free agent. This may be an impossible question to answer, Miles, because you mentioned the job security potential of the coaching staff. So those would be part of the key decision makers. And what I'm about to ask, what's your sense? Is Kyle Pitts still a Falcon next year? Wudi asked that similar sort of frame question for Kirk Cousins. Or is this one like, hey, man, we drafted you top 5, go out on the market and see what you are? Because I imagine Falcons fans would be super frustrated if he ends up in a pass-happy offense. We've mentioned the Rams earlier. That's a random team that picks up, and all of a sudden he's the player that Falcons fans dreamed of when he was drafted with a top 5 pick. I'm sure it's a fear. Jet fans have that all the time when players walk out the door and immediately turn into something like son of a. That comes up.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a fear. But to answer your question, it's tough to answer it right now because obviously there's a lot of factors at play there, but you got to keep in mind, you're going to have to pay Drake London soon. And Drake London's going to command probably top 5 money at his best. I think Drake London, he's one of the, if not the most underrated wide receiver in the league. He's spectacular. And specifically talking about those contested catches, I think he's one of the best in the NFL at doing that. So knowing you're going to have to pay him, you're going to have to pay Bijan Robinson, and obviously that's a little bit down the road, but Drake's is coming up. So knowing that you've got these contracts coming up, you're going to have to make some new additions to make this team better. I wouldn't be surprised to see him walk at some point because, like you said, just the production level has not been there for a guy that you invested that much draft capital into.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, hopefully, your station, you're a guy that's not walking out the door anytime soon. Hopefully long-term contract is in the future for Myles Garrett. One last one here and just throw it to you. We got this Jets-Falcons game on Sunday in the middle of the Thanksgiving holiday and everything. Both teams heading not in the direction they'd want, so it's hard to understand motivations and other things of that nature. What the hell are you expecting here when the Atlanta Falcons take flight and they land, in MetLife Stadium? What are you expecting?
It's tough, man, because this Falcons team has been probably the most unpredictable team all season long. I mean, you have that 30-0 goose egg against the Carolina Panthers. Then you beat the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. You beat the Washington Commanders. You lose to the Panthers again. It's been sort of wishy-washy of like, what is this team? There's moments where you see that elite level of play. I mean, they were right there with the 49ers as well. That game was a 1-touchdown game as well, right there with the Patriots. You took the Colts into overtime. So they're right there with some of these elite teams in the league. They just somehow haven't been able to figure out a way to finish some of these games. So as far as a prediction is concerned, it's really impossible to have one. But based on how both teams are performing, the quarterback uncertainty with the Jets, and again, you could say that the quarterback uncertainty with the Falcons too at this point, I would say the Falcons win just because of the defensive advantage. I think that the defense can take advantage of this system of, the Jets offense, really. I think if they're able to contain Breece Hall, then I think they can win this game.
That is very fair.
Appreciate you shooting us straight, MG. We appreciate that.
Yes,
I will say this, though. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if they, lay an egg. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what has happened this season.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we need to borrow Bryce Young for just his game. I don't know. But it should be a battle for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
no
Miles,
doubt.
I just want to thank you. I know it's Thanksgiving week and you got a busy life in general, responding to every tweet that comes your way, being Myles Garrett and all. So thank you for taking the time this week for a special third-party Tuesday for us here on the program, Miles. It's back-to-back years or recently that we've been able to do a lot of these conversations together, which I really enjoy. So as always, man, thank you so much for the time.
Absolutely, guys. Happy to do it.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving and enjoy with your family, my friend.
Yes, happy
Thanks,
Thanksgiving.
Right, there he is, Myles Garrett. Wudi, final thoughts.
I'm still not on the tank train, so I'll be rooting for a win. I'm hoping for a win. To Miles's point, that defense, I didn't realize how successful they've been pass rush wise, top 3, and then passing yards allowed in the top 10, which is just great, as we try to get Tyrod going. But there is one thing that I definitely need to say, especially on this channel after all the other things that I've said on this channel, and that is Mr. John Mechie III. I apologize. I was not familiar with your game.
I appreciate you apologizing. He deserves that because John Mechie III, in 2 of his 3 career games with the Jets, he has a touchdown. In 36 career games prior to that, 1 touchdown. And not only just touchdowns he's catching, he has been a massive factor. He has filled in, crazy to say, the Garrett Wilson role. Someone had to step up to be the guy. And maybe we're talking about the wrong former second-round pick in some of these conversations. Adonai Mitchell. Oh, John Mechie III, baby. So terrific. And hey, what this season is about, I'm going to be rooting for a win just like you, Wudi. But what the season is about is evaluation. And boy, to me, a happy, pleasant surprise. And that's why Darren Muji made these moves, to have a chance to say, oh, wow, John Mechie III is something. Like right now, it looks like Mozzie Smith isn't something. He was a healthy scratch on Sunday. So that one's looking less so, but that's what taking a dart throw is. You're not going to hit on all of them, but hitting on any of them on top of the picks, that's what it's all about. So absolute big stuff there. Folks, we're going to be doing a special, you maybe go Third Party Tuesday. What the hell? I know the days both start with T, but what the hell happened there? Well, with Thanksgiving being on Thursday, me and Wudi made an audible at the line of scrimmage, and because it will be difficult to get other guests on Thursday, with everything going on, it only makes sense to do a quick flip-flop, and we'll do some top 5 things that we're thankful for the New York Jets on Thanksgiving, fittingly with the holidays. So I'm very much looking forward to that, Wudi. We're still pumping out the content no matter what, which we appreciate it, folks. We're in 5 different destinations. Make sure you guys like the video and hit subscribe. And we'll be back again on Thursday as a tandem together.
Yes. Pump up the gym. We'll be pumping out the content. Real quick, do you have time to answer this one question that I think it's a good question?
Sure. What do we got? From who? What?
Our guy DJ Dirty Cooch said, do we still want to use one of our early round picks for a wide receiver if Mechie and Adonai, continue to show that they are worthy or they're worth? I personally definitely still want somebody else in here. I was thinking, free agent. Then I saw the free agent class. I was pretty surprised, like how bad it is. Like I feel like Rashid Shaheed is like the best person in the class, which is that's crazy to say. No disrespect. Like, that's not even disrespect to Shaheed. He's
with all due respect, yeah.
No, he's a talented wide receiver, but usually leading the class, we're talking about somebody who has been an All-Pro or multiple Pro Bowls, something like that. That's just not, on Shaheed's resume, but he is a talented receiver, no doubt. So with that being said, that the wide receiver free agency is not looking great, I'm definitely looking at the early rounds for a wide receiver because to me, I want Garrett, I want that person, and then, we got Mechie and Adonai here. It's great for depth. It's great knowing, someone's down. You have a capable person to step up. But I feel like that's what always happens with Jets fans. Like we like these guys. We're like, we don't need anybody. Like I remember Michael Carter. I was a big fan of Michael Carter. They drafted Brees.
Which one?
That's a great question. Both of them. But if you just listen to the story, Boy Green, drafted Brees. And then I'm like, damn, well, Michael Carter, he was, missing all those tackles. Like, are you sure? But those upgrades, do volumes for the team. So I think this is another one of those situations where we can like the guy, let's support the guy. But yeah, we need somebody else.
Yeah, you said it beautifully. So I'm going to swim in the same pool that you're talking about here. I don't know if it's to your point. You took a gander at the free agents to come. Again, trades. Sometimes there's always a surprise in wide receiver. By the way, let me just say this in months in advance. AJ Brown, absolutely not. No. I have no interest in AJ Brown. I'm sure he's going to be available. I'm sure he's going to be traded to somebody. To the Jets. No, thank you. Yeah. He was the
He's almost certainly going to be a Patriot, and it's going to be the worst.
Phenomenal. Go somewhere
What do you
else.
mean phenomenal? What are you talking
Because
about?
I think he's going to destroy that locker room. I think
He's not going to. He hasn't destroyed a locker room yet.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that Philadelphia Eagles team. Hey, we'll see what happens here. The point is, I think there will be some receiver that becomes available via trade. The Jets obviously are in a perfect position to attack if that occurs. I'm intrigued by the draft, of course, so using one of those picks is interesting. Although for a young receiver, I'd rather have a guy that you just know. I don't have to guess. Like Garrett Wilson, we found out, wow, this guy's pretty good. And maybe he could get lucky again in the draft. But to bring in a veteran that has a proven resume, whoever that is via trade, and again, I think names are going to pop up, to just know they're going to be, when it's a post at 7.5 yards, he's going to run the post or the slant or the this. I think a veteran receiver in the room that you can rely on would be great because when we talk about depth, when you add a piece in, everyone else goes a rung down the ladder. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Adonai Mitchell and John Mechie III being competent guys at 3 and 4 in your roster, as opposed to 2 and 3, when an injury happens, all of a sudden you're not devastated. Garrett Wilson goes down. We're all running around like, Jesus, the world is burning down. And Garrett's awesome. But to be able to survive things because of depth on a team, I think is critically important. So I think it's a great question. I'm glad that, Wudi, you hit that and one special. We have that red button off camera that we can press at any time to say, wait just a minute before we close, the puppy on this. Hold on a second, brother. We got something to go on there. And yes, I would still utilize, again, whether it's draft, free agent dollars, trade. Sometimes receivers are cap casualties and they enter the free agent pool that aren't scheduled right now, but sometimes it happens. So regardless of the avenue, I'd be curious to see if they kick the tires on that, because I'd rather my young quarterback or veteran quarterback, however combination it's going to work, have more than enough weapons than too little, and one injury changes that dynamic. So as well as John Mechie has played statistically, as well as Adonai has played analytically in terms of separation, I want to add another proven pass catcher to this group.
Yes. I just want to echo. I didn't, think of the trade like that, but yeah, trade, depending on what the competition is, probably actually the plan A. Because I do agree, I would want a veteran who can do certain things in there. But again, when I saw the free agents, I was like, damn, he ain't getting one over here. What I'm saying? But maybe, you could trade for one. But, if you need, examples, look at what, George Pickens has done for the Cowboys.
Oh, hot damn. Yeah.
It's night and day. But if you're, a fan of the draft, you look at what Emeka Egbuka did for the Bucks. I think they both did the same thing, but they got those players two different ways. So that is what I'm looking for. And neither of those teams were like, we already have CD. We already have, Mike Evans. Nah, you add the dynamic weapon to the dynamic weapon you already have and watch the QB light it up.
And I'd even give another option for agency, right? Stephon Diggs was not the first receiver signed, yet look what he's doing in New England. Now, there was some drama and pink stuff and Cardi B in a boat and someone being pregnant, maybe. I don't know. That goes beyond this show. But he has done a real number for New England, even if it hasn't always shown up statistically there. So, again, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. There's no question about it. So, a good final question to end the show on, for sure. And again, that's something we will continue to explore. Again, another plug. We talked about this earlier. Me and Wudi will do a special top 5 Jet things we're most thankful for. You guys can tune into that. That'll be live on Thursday at 3:00. You guys will be able to watch that episode, which will be terrific. I want to wish Wudi and his wonderful family a happy Thanksgiving. I want to root and wish a happy Thanksgiving to everyone that's tuning in here on this Tuesday. Again, we will have an episode on Thursday at 3:00. Hopefully, you guys can watch it live. If not, there's football and family going on. You guys can always rewatch it. That's available on both of our YouTube channels at Take Flight Talk and at Boy Green 25. Wudi, it's been fun.
Absolutely. You and everybody watching this show right now are over 200 reasons why I'm thankful. and cannot wait to do it all over with you guys again pretty soon.
All right. God bless everybody. Take care. We'll see you. All right. Great